Why am I wearing a party hat, you may ask?
If the devil were to explode and evil were gone forever, what sort of party would you have?
That's why. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to do Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Purple incarnation of Satan is gone. Grossi, and today we are going to be ranking the final 8 teams left in the NFL postseason. And I know what you're thinking, Vikings fans. You're like, oh man, hasn't Tom talked about the Vikings enough? Like, just move on, right? It's becoming a little petty. It's getting annoying. And you know what? I'm sorry. I won't celebrate the Vikings' loss too much.
Today is the greatest day of my life. Guess who just got murdered?
Okay, now I'm done. Maybe. Starting off with number 8, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars pulling off the greatest comeback in postseason history, and they're probably still not going to give the Jaguars a shot against the Chiefs.
If you really think about it, like, it's actually humans that don't believe in us. God did.
The Jaguars down 27-0, had a roaring comeback in that second half, winning that game. An absolute phenomenal display of defense in the second half. Trevor Lawrence, after throwing 4 interceptions in the first half, 3 in the first quarter, turned things around. He was efficient, and honestly, it was a phenomenal game to watch, unless you were a Chargers fan. Basically, the Jaguars forced Brandon Staley to go home and rethink his life.
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
So the Jaguars right now, they're playing with house money. They hosted a playoff game, they won the AFC South, and they won a wild card matchup, and now they're going up against the number 1 seed in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Jaguars are dangerous because they have really nothing to lose here, and they are still technically on a rebuild, but Doug Peterson deserves a lot of credit, and I think that they're going to put up a pretty damn good fight against the Kansas City Chiefs. They are ranked at the bottom because I do think that the other teams are just a bit better than them, but Jaguars, hold your head up high, and let's see if that spotted kitty can go meow next week. Number 7, you got the New York Giants. That's right, Giants. You get to keep New York as your name. You're not going back to New Jersey, not just for this season, but for next season as well. That is my gift to you, because you have given me the greatest gift of them all. Brian Daboll, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, they took care of business against the Minnesota Vikings, who have absolutely no defense. And after that, I imagine Brian Daboll was thinking this.
Actually went surprisingly well.
But the real story was Daniel Jones, 24 for 35, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, also had 78 rushing yards on 17 attempts. And Daniel Jones looked like a complete threat and great weapon against this terrible Minnesota Vikings defense. And again, I want to have a caveat here and some context. The Vikings defense is atrocious, can make almost any QB look good, but that is not taking anything away from what Brian Daboll has been able to do with this team. Daniel Jones has really emerged as their franchise QB at the moment. They are likely to re-sign him, give him a contract extension because he's earned it. You know, you've been waiting. I talked to 5 Point Vids. You've been waiting to see that Daniel Jones statement game, and you saw it on Sunday afternoon. Barkley, 9 carries for 53 yards and 2 touchdowns. They really stopped utilizing him in the second half, and they really didn't run with Daniel Jones. Played a little bit more conservative, but were able to get the win. Thank you, Kirk Cousins, for not throwing the ball past the sticks. And now they have a date with the number 1 seed in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles. And honestly, I think they got a shot, considering they got blown out their first matchup, but then week 18, starting their backups, they nearly mounted a comeback against this Eagles team. The Eagles will be healthy. It will not be an easy thing to do, but don't count out the Giants because, listen, I have before, and we all know how that ended. Number 6, you got the Dallas Cowboys. You did it. You did it. I don't want to say you retired, Brady, because we all know that monster comes back like he's a vampire. But Dak Prescott in one of the best games I've ever seen from him. Mike McCarthy called a phenomenal game. And this was the Cowboys team you've been wanting to see. A heavy dose of Tony Pollard sprinkled in with some Zeke. On top of that, Dak Prescott didn't make any glaring mistakes on Monday night. And he played pretty damn well. 25 for 33, had 4 touchdowns, was only sacked 1 time. They moved the ball well. CeeDee Lamb wasn't their entire offense. Dalton Schultz was their leading receiver. And their defense, good God, Micah Parsons getting nearly double-digit pressures on Tom Brady. And Brady, yeah, he had a rough night on Monday. And while he may have lost his touch, he'll probably still blame his receivers that are half his age.
Am I so out of touch? No. It's the children who are wrong.
But now the Cowboys head to Santa Clara on Sunday Night Football to take on the San Francisco 49ers, who look like one of, if not the best team left in the postseason. That is going to be a difficult game. That offensive line is going to have to be really, really good against a good pass rush. Dak can take advantage of that secondary, but listen, Cowboys, you want a wild card game? It's been a while. Kudos to you. You're sitting at number 6. Number 5, and I might be told to go eat an Impossible Whopper after this. You got the Buffalo Bills. Cue all the gasps. I put the Bills here, and it's
just a feeling I've got.
And no, I'm not going to start singing Rap God, but the Buffalo Bills, they struggled against the Miami Dolphins, who do not have a good defense, who had Skylar Thompson starting. And I know that it's already going to be thrown, but what about the Bengals? They struggled against a backup QB. Don't worry, we're going to get there. The Bills really did not impress me, but the Bills kind of just have played the way they've played for like the back half of the season. They are living and dying with Josh Allen. That defense is definitely vulnerable. They definitely benefited from the Dolphins dropping a couple of those passes. But the Bills, listen, Josh Allen, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And Josh Allen is the kind of quarterback that can throw a really bad interception, but then throw a 50-yard touchdown to Stephon Diggs. And that's how they might beat you. That's how the Buffalo Bills might make their way all the way to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they won't make it to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they won't beat the Bengals. But it's a little bit concerning against that kind of opponent. It is a division rival, so I'm cutting them a little bit of slack here. But I feel like this is Josh Allen when he just throws to Stephon Diggs for 50 yards.
60% of the time, it works every time.
And now they're going to be facing the Cincinnati Bengals in the rematch that everybody wants to see. It is going to be the game of the weekend, and I think they're going to have a tough time. The Bengals have a good red zone defense, and at times the Bills struggle in the red zone. But the Bills have won 8 straight games. You can't count them out at all. I think just the equality of their opponent was a little bit lesser than the Ravens, and so because of that and the struggles they had, the Bills are sitting at number 5. Number 4, you got the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, why are they above the Bills? I'm going to tell you right now. The Ravens, they have a good defense. The Dolphins, they do not. And while the Dolphins did have a good defensive performance against the Bills, the Ravens, they shut the Bengals down in that last quarter. And if it wasn't for Sam Hubbard doing this, they could have lost that game. Also, it would have helped if Greg Roman wasn't the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, or, they just gave the ball to J.K. Dobbins, but that's besides the point. Joe Burrow, 23 for 32, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, was sacked 4 times, which is a little concerning there. But the big thing, they did not make any costly mistakes. Joe Burrow didn't throw any interceptions. They were efficient when it came to moving the football around. Ground game definitely could use some work, but I think they will have some success against the Buffalo Bills because they show that they are vulnerable to a good running attack. And so the Bengals are going to rank just higher than the Bills for me just because, again, the quality of opponent, they didn't make those kind of mistakes. And we're going to see real quick who's the better team this Sunday. Number 3, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. And listen, the Eagles benefited from not playing this week because a lot of teams did not look good. But the Giants are still drunk off their first playoff win in 11 years. Meanwhile, the Eagles, they're going to be playing the Giants for the 3rd time in a little over a month.
I'm a drunk. I don't know nothing about how I do anything.
But this bye week is definitely going to benefit the Eagles because Jalen Hurts had more time to get healthy. And is it a trap game? It could be. A divisional opponent. The Giants look really, really good against the Vikings, but the Giants are going to be playing a much better defense in the Eagles. The Eagles were leading the NFL in sacks this year, so the Giants' offensive line, They got to prepare for that. And the Eagles are primed to go to the NFC Championship game. They have the explosive offense. They have a very good defense. And they are one of the few teams in the NFC that I think that really could test the San Francisco 49ers. So Eagles, I hope you enjoyed your vacation. You got a primetime game on Saturday night. Let's see if you're going to go flying. Number 2, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. Also on a bye. They have won their last 5 straight games, and there's some concerns about them. Obviously, their defense, and then you have some mistakes from Patrick Mahomes, but I think that this is a much better matchup for them going against the Jaguars than it would have been the Chargers, because the Chargers, they struggled with at times. Hell, they struggled with a couple of divisional opponents this year. And it's being played at Arrowhead, which is one of the biggest home field advantages you can have in the NFL. And for the Chiefs, it's Super Bowl or bust. They are not messing around.
I'm in the empire business.
And even though the Chiefs are the first seed, if they win and the Bills win, they'll be heading to Atlanta for the AFC Championship game. And I think it's important not to look past the Jaguars, because as I said earlier, the Jaguars, they have nothing to lose. You might see Wildcat, you might see onside kick, you might see some craziness, because why not? But the Chiefs, I think, are the better football team. I think it will be a battle on Saturday, but Chiefs will be looking to move to the AFC Championship game once again. And number 1, you got the San Francisco 49ers. That makes 11 straight wins for the 49ers, and I got to imagine that Seahawks fans, after having hope for 3 quarters, are feeling like this.
Congratulations! Oh my God.
And then the 4th quarter happened.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
And I want to be very clear, the San Francisco 49ers are not a perfect team. Their secondary got exposed by DK Metcalf, and that defensive line makes that secondary look a lot better than it is. But again, that defensive line is really, really good. Brock Purdy, a lot of talking going on about him. He played well, 18 for 30, 332 yards, 3 touchdowns. And I know people are criticizing some of the throws that he makes and saying like, hey, he's not as good as people are saying. But all I'm going to say is, for the guy who was the very last pick in this past draft, he's playing pretty darn well. And he doesn't have to be amazing, but he extends plays. And you got guys like Christian McCaffrey, who's getting 119 yards on 15 carries, also had a receiving touchdown. And the 49ers just look like the most complete team in the NFL. I've said it once, I'll say it again. The way you beat the 49ers is what the Chiefs did earlier this season. You have to score a lot of points and go up early. If you're able to do that and maintain that lead, the 49ers are not used to mounting a major comeback. They can put up a lot of points, as seen against the Seahawks. They've done it against the Raiders. I'm not saying that's foolproof, but that's what you have to do, because it's going to be tough stopping all of those weapons on the offense. So the 49ers, they're sitting there at number 1 in the power rankings. They're taking on the Cowboys, who they should be able to beat, and they may have punched their ticket to the NFC Championship game. So to recap, at number 1, you got the 49ers. 2, you got the Chiefs. 3, Eagles. 4, Bengals. 5, Bills. 6, Cowboys. 7, Giants. And 8, Jaguars. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who should be higher? Who should be lower? Let me know. You guys find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or TomGrossiComedy, all social media, see down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the patrons over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.